The Galactic Council chamber floated at the heart of the Orion cluster, a vast dome of light and glass that shimmered like a jewel in the dark. Thousands of species had gathered there, their shapes and colors filling the great hall, some tall and crystalline, others scaled and insect-like, all united by one emotion: pride. They had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. To them, Earth was only a new world, a child among empires, loud but unimportant. At the center of the room stood the human ambassador. His name was Elias Ward. He wore a simple gray suit, unarmed, unguarded. The other delegates surrounded him, seated in their shining metal thrones. One by one they spoke, their voices echoing through the chamber. "Humanity has grown dangerous," said the High Speaker of the Council. "They build weapons they cannot control. They spread beyond their station. They are to be warned, peacefully if possible, forcefully if needed." A wave of laughter followed. A dozen alien voices mixed together, mocking and sharp. Some delegates clicked their mandibles, others hissed in amusement. One, a massive creature with bronze skin and golden eyes, leaned forward and grinned. "Your species still burns fuel in the atmosphere," he sneered. "And you speak of defending planets?" Elias did not reply. He only stared ahead, calm and steady. He knew how this would go. Humanity had sent him to listen, not to argue. The Council was not interested in dialogue. They wanted obedience. As the accusations continued, Elias thought of home. He imagined the blue curve of Earth, the oceans that had birthed their first ships, the cities glowing under clouds of light. He thought of how far they had come in just a few centuries, how much they had suffered to reach the stars. Every insult cut deep, but he did not let it show. "Earth must be contained," declared another alien voice. "They refuse to share their technologies with the Council. They are selfish, reckless. They must be taught humility." That word, humility, echoed through the hall like a judgment. The Council loved that word. They had used it against hundreds of young species before, demanding they surrender their freedom for peace. Humanity had watched it happen many times, but they had remained silent, preparing, building, waiting. Elias finally raised his hand. The lights dimmed slightly as he spoke. "The people of Earth do not seek war," he said quietly. "But we do not kneel. We remember the lessons of history. We remember what happens when arrogance rules over justice. You call us reckless, perhaps because you fear what we might become." The room fell into uneasy silence for a brief moment. The translator drones buzzed. A few delegates shifted uncomfortably. Then once again laughter filled the chamber. "Fear you?" one delegate barked. "We could erase your world before your kind could blink." "Then why haven't you?" Elias asked softly. The laughter stopped. The Council speaker rose from his seat, his shimmering robes spreading like wings. "Enough," he said. "Humanity will comply with Council law. You will cease your fleet construction and submit your defense technologies for inspection. Refusal will be seen as aggression." Elias bowed his head slightly, not in agreement, but in respect for the theater of it all. "I will deliver your message," he said. "But I would suggest caution. Earth remembers every word spoken here today." The speaker's eyes narrowed. "Are you threatening us, human?" "No," Elias replied. "I'm warning you." Security drones hummed closer. But the ambassador turned and walked away, the sound of his footsteps echoing against the polished floor. No one stopped him. To the Council, he was just one man, one voice from a small, unimportant planet. When the meeting ended, the delegates filed out, laughing again, making jokes about human pride and primitive courage. Only a few stayed behind, those old enough to remember other young races who had risen fast and died faster. They looked at one another and said nothing. Far away on the edge of the Sol system, a massive ship glided silently through the void. Its hull was black as night, absorbing every photon of light around it. The crew spoke in calm, steady voices as they tested systems no one outside Earth even knew existed. At the heart of the vessel, a symbol glowed faintly on the command deck, a blue and white flag with a single word beneath it: humanity. Back on Earth, under the dark skies of a rebuilt New Geneva, engineers worked day and night beneath mountain bunkers. They did not build for conquest. They built because they knew the day would come when laughter would turn to fear. In his shuttle, Elias watched the stars drift by, the Council station shrinking behind him. He replayed the meeting in his mind, the arrogance, the laughter, the threat. He smiled faintly to himself. Let them laugh, he whispered. They won't laugh for long. As the ship descended toward the blue planet, messages flashed across encrypted channels. Fleet commanders received silent orders. Research bases activated long-dormant systems. The world's networks shifted into a new pattern, a quiet hum of unity and readiness. From the outside, Earth seemed unchanged, peaceful, ordinary, unaware. But beneath the surface, the heartbeat of an entire species began to quicken. Humanity was preparing not for glory, not for empire, but for survival. And when the next council session came, it would not be words that answered their arrogance. It would be silence. The stars over Mars glowed faint red as silence filled the orbit. Only a handful of people on Earth knew what had begun. The Galactic Council believed they were still in control, but in the shadows of the void, humanity was preparing for something the galaxy had never seen. In the blackness beyond Jupiter, Admiral Reyes stood aboard the command bridge of the Valkyrian, the flagship of Earth's hidden fleet. The ship was unlike anything the Council knew existed, silent, invisible to every scanner, wrapped in a magnetic veil that bent light around it. Even its heat signature was erased, making it a ghost among the stars. Status? Reyes asked quietly, his eyes never leaving the holographic display before him. All systems stable, Admiral, replied Commander Imani. The fleet is cloaked. Phase drives at 80%. Waiting for your order, Reyes nodded. Keep the fleet dark. No transmissions, no signals. Let them believe we are sleeping. Beyond the glass panels, the void stretched endlessly. Faint blue lights from the fleet shimmered for a moment before disappearing again. 20 ships, carriers, stealth frigates, and long-range destroyers, all built in secret, using human minds and human fear as fuel. The Admiral's gaze hardened. He had watched the Council mock their species, calling them primitive, emotional, dangerous. They were right about one thing, and humans were dangerous. But not because of their weapons. Because of their will. Reyes had been part of the first Mars defense program years ago, back when the Council advised Earth to dismantle its weapons. Instead, Earth had built them deeper, under oceans and inside asteroids. They learned the Council's patterns, their arrogance, their overconfidence. Every insult had been recorded. Every treaty broken had been studied. Humanity had learned from their enemies silently. Now word had reached them. The Council was sending a peacekeeping fleet toward Mars, 20,000 ships strong. A fleet meant to intimidate, not destroy. They thought Earth would surrender at the sight of their armada. Reyes smiled bitterly. They're coming, he said, and they don't know what's waiting. In New Geneva, Ambassador Elias Ward stood in the underground war room, staring at the giant screen showing the same data. The Council fleet approaching, shimmering like a silver river across space. The broadcast showed commentators across alien networks laughing, mocking Earth's silence. They will surrender before the first battle, said one Council analyst. Humans cannot comprehend true war, but Earth had already seen too much war, in trenches, skies, oceans, and stars. Their history was written in blood and resilience. A soft voice spoke behind Elias. Do we respond? Asked a young officer. Elias shook his head. Not yet. Let them come closer. Let them believe. Meanwhile, in orbit around Saturn's rings, a lone Council scout ship detected something unusual, a distortion in space like a faint ripple. The sensors glitched, showing multiple readings before clearing again. Strange, said the alien pilot. It's probably just debris. But it wasn't. It was a test, Earth's cloaking field brushing against the scout's detection radius. The crew didn't know they had been seen, recorded, and targeted. The Valkyrian's AI locked the coordinates silently, marking the first target of humanity's retaliation. Back at the Council's capital world, tension began to grow. Reports came in. Minor communication blackouts, missing ships, unexplained static. The High Speaker dismissed them as technical errors, but one older member of the Council, an ancient insectoid scholar, spoke softly. It begins as shadows before the storm. Humanity moves quietly. I have seen this before on their own world. They are not to be underestimated, the speaker laughed. Old tales and paranoia. They have no power here. Far from their arrogance, Admiral Reyes was preparing the first strike. Target priority communication relays, supply lines, and deep space beacons, he ordered. No destruction of colonies. We aim to confuse, not conquer, the fleet acknowledged. Within seconds, hundreds of stealth missiles launched. Silent, invisible, each one programmed to disable, not kill. The attacks began so subtly that the Council didn't even realize they were under siege. By the time the alien fleets reached Mars orbit, half their communications were gone. Ships couldn't see each other. Navigation systems glitched. And through the static, a message appeared on every channel. A voice speaking in clear, calm English. "This is Earth Command. You entered our system without permission. Leave now, or be escorted out." The Council commanders laughed at first, believing it a trick. Then the first of their ships vanished. No explosion, no light, just gone. Then another. Panic spread. The fleet tried to fire into the darkness, but there was nothing to hit. Inside the Valkyrian, Reyes watched the enemy collapse in confusion. "Hold fire," he ordered. "They need to understand who they're dealing with." For hours, the alien fleet floundered. Ships crashed into each other, their sensors blinded. When the survivors finally retreated, they had lost hundreds of vessels, without ever seeing their enemy. Across the galaxy, the Council chambers buzzed with disbelief. "Impossible," one shouted. No planet could inflict such damage. But in the shadows, humanity was already moving its next fleet into position. The retaliation had only begun. Elias Ward received the encrypted message from Admiral Reyes. He read it silently and smiled. "Phase 1 complete. The Council is blind." He looked up at the night sky above New Geneva and whispered, "They wanted to see Earth kneel. Instead, they'll watch us rise." The world below him shimmered with quiet power. Lights of hidden bases, new ships, new hope. The shadows over the void were no longer silent. They were human, and soon the galaxy would learn what it meant when Earth finally fought back. The Council's great fleet limped home in silence. They had gone to frighten Earth and returned defeated, confused, and humiliated. Half their ships never came back. Those that did carried terrified crews whispering of invisible enemies, ghost ships, and sudden deaths. No one could explain it. No one dared to. In the towering halls of the Galactic Council, tension burned like fire. The high speaker slammed his claws on the desk, his voice echoing. "One planet, one primitive world has embarrassed us before the entire galaxy. I want answers." But there were no answers, only fear. Reports from the survivors all said the same thing. They saw nothing. No ships, no missiles, just silence and then destruction. At the far end of the chamber, one delegate spoke softly. "Perhaps we should not have mocked them." The speaker glared. "Do not speak such weakness. Humanity is still beneath us. We will crush them completely." As orders were given for a second, larger invasion, the Council's arrogance sealed its fate. Across the stars, Earth already knew what was coming. Deep beneath the ice of Europa, in a secret command center buried under kilometers of frozen crust, Admiral Reyes stood before a holographic display. Around him, the faces of Earth's united fleet leaders flickered into view. Officers from every nation, every background. For the first time in history, Earth was truly one. "Council reinforcements are mobilizing," said Commander Imani. "Over 50,000 ships, heavy carriers, dreadnoughts, plasma destroyers." "Let them come," Reyes said quietly. "They still don't understand what we've built." He turned to a console. On the screen was Earth's secret weapon, Project Nemesis. A new kind of warship powered by a dark matter core, capable of bending gravity itself. It wasn't a myth anymore. The Valkyrian had been the first. Now there were 7 more. "They mocked us for being late to the stars," Reyes continued. "They forgot who taught them to walk on their own worlds. They forgot we were forged by struggle." He pressed his hand on the glass table, activating the fleet network. Initiate Phase 2. The human fleet emerged from hiding, hundreds of dark ships gliding from the shadows of asteroids, moons, and dead stations. The stars reflected across their black hulls, but their presence barely registered on any scanners. They were ghosts born from human ingenuity and desperation. On board the Valkyrian, lights flickered red as the order spread. "All hands to battle stations. Prepare for engagement." The crew moved with silent precision. No panic, no shouting, only calm determination. They knew what they were fighting for, Earth's survival, and the respect of a galaxy that had laughed at them for generations. When the Second Council fleet reached the outer edge of the solar system, they came with full arrogance. Thousands of ships lined up in formation, their energy cores burning bright. The command ship broadcasted across all frequencies. Humans of Earth, you have violated Council law. You will surrender immediately. Failure to comply will result in planetary annihilation. The message echoed across every human channel. Then came silence. A moment later, a single reply arrived, transmitted from deep within the asteroid belt. The voice was calm, steady, unmistakably human. You came to our home with threats. You attacked our people. Now you will listen. The alien commanders exchanged confused glances. The voice continued. This is Admiral Reyes of the Terran Defense Command. You call us primitive. You call us violent. But you should have remembered we learn fast. Before they could respond, their radar screens lit up with dozens of new contacts. Multiple readings, behind us, above us, everywhere. Shouted a council officer, but it was already too late. From the void emerged Earth's fleet, dark, sharp-edged ships appearing like shadows against the stars. They moved without sound, without signal, as if space itself obeyed them. The first strike was not a blast, it was silence. Communication arrays blinked out. Navigation systems failed. Engines stuttered. The aliens screamed in confusion as invisible projectiles tore through their ships. In seconds, hundreds of vessels were gone. No explosion, no fire, just pure disintegration. The Council fleet tried to retreat, but the human ships closed in, firing beams of focused gravity that crushed armor like paper. Entire battleships folded in on themselves, imploding in bursts of blue light. From Earth's moon base, Ambassador Elias watched the live feeds. The galaxy will see this, he said softly. Every signal, every second. Let them remember. Indeed, across thousands of worlds, screens flickered to life. Civilians watched in disbelief as the Council's invincible armada burned and broke. For centuries, the Council had been the symbol of control and order. Now they were powerless before a world they had mocked. In the Council chamber, panic spread like wildfire. Cut the transmissions. Shut it down, shouted one official. But it was too late. The galaxy had seen. A trembling aide turned to the high speaker. Sir, the human message is being broadcast across the public channels. The speaker's eyes widened. Message? What message? The aide pressed play. We didn't want war, but you left us no choice. You spoke of peace while holding a knife. Now you will understand silence. The Council sat frozen. Outside their windows, fleets that once belonged to their empire now drifted in fear, refusing to enter human space again. Back in the solar system, as the last Council ships vanished into hyperspace, Admiral Reyes stood on the Valkyrian's bridge, watching the glowing debris fade. Stand down, he ordered. We've made our point, Commander Imani nodded. Sir, we've confirmed. The Council's channels have gone quiet. Reyes looked toward the stars, his voice low. Then humanity has finally been heard. Across Earth, celebrations erupted, not of conquest, but of pride. The people looked up at the night sky, knowing the galaxy would never see them the same way again. And somewhere deep within the Council's archives, a single report was filed and locked away by trembling hands. Human retaliation. Brutal. Unstoppable. Purposeful. The Council fell silent. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy feared not a conqueror, but the quiet resolve of a single world that had decided enough was enough, and this was only the beginning. The Council chamber no longer echoed with laughter. The same voices that had mocked Earth now trembled under the weight of their own fear. The great banners of the Galactic Alliance hung above the floor, once symbols of unity, now reminders of shame. Every member species had seen the broadcasts of their defeat. Whole worlds whispered of the humans who fought like ghosts and vanished into darkness. The high speaker's voice shook with anger. They embarrassed us before the entire galaxy. Our fleets destroyed, our pride shattered, and yet they speak of peace. His claws clanged against the podium. We will not bow to savages from a single planet. Murmurs filled the room. Some delegates demanded war. Others, frightened by the thought, asked for diplomacy. But one by one, those who spoke of peace were silenced with glares. The Council's pride was a fragile thing, and it refused to break. Finally, the speaker raised his hand. Prepare the eclipser. If Earth wants silence, we will give it to them forever. A cold stillness filled the hall. The eclipser, a planet-killer weapon forbidden by their own laws. Even speaking its name was dangerous. But desperation had replaced reason. In orbit above Neptune, Admiral Reyes stood before a vast hologram of the solar system. Red lights blinked across the outer rim, signs of approaching energy signatures. "They're coming again," said Commander Imani. "But this time it's not a fleet. It's one weapon." Reyes narrowed his eyes. "Show me." The display zoomed in. A single massive structure drifted through the dark, black, circular, covered in glowing red veins of plasma. It was the size of a moon. "They mean to erase us," Reyes said quietly. "Not defeat us." He turned to his crew. "Send word to Earth Command. Operation Silence begins." Back on Earth, under the massive domes of New Geneva, Ambassador Elias Ward addressed the leaders of the United Human Alliance. "The Council believes we seek conquest," he said, his voice steady. "They are wrong. We only seek to end this cycle of arrogance, once and for all." A young officer asked, "And if they don't stop, sir?" Elias looked up at the ceiling, where the stars glimmered through the transparent dome. "Then we will show them mercy the only way humanity knows how, by stopping before they do." In the darkness near Pluto's orbit, the human fleet gathered. Dozens of ships, each cloaked in silence, formed a ring around the system. The Valkyrian led the formation, its hull absorbing the faint light of distant suns. Admiral Reyes stood before his crew. "They bring a planet killer. If it fires, Earth dies in minutes. We will not let that happen." "Sir," Commander Imani said, "the Eclipser's power output is increasing." "It's charging." Reyes took a breath. "Then we strike first. Targets locked. Fire." The void erupted in light. Hundreds of invisible projectiles streaked through space, bending gravity around them. The Eclipser's shields flared, absorbing most of the damage, but it wasn't enough. A section of the weapon's outer hull cracked, scattering molten fragments into the void. Inside the Eclipser, alarms blared. "We're under attack. Unknown vector. Unknown weapons," shouted alien officers. The high speaker appeared on the command screen, his golden eyes wide. "Defend the weapon! Do not let them destroy it." But it was too late. The humans were not attacking for destruction. They were targeting control systems, reactors, and command links. Within minutes, the Eclipser's crew found themselves blind, unable to steer or fire. Then a transmission cut through the static. "This is Admiral Reyes of Earth. You brought a weapon meant to kill billions. We will not destroy you, but you will never fire it again." The message played across every frequency. The aliens froze. Then, before they could respond, every control system aboard the Eclipser shut down. Human cyber warfare programs had slipped through their defenses, rewriting the machine's very code. The weapon was dead. Hours later, the image of the Eclipser appeared in the council chamber. The speaker's face was pale. What have they done?" An aide whispered, "Sir, our fleets report that the weapon is disabled. It's drifting." "The humans spared the crew." The speaker's voice cracked. "Spared?" "Yes, sir. They could have destroyed it. But they didn't." The chamber fell silent. For the first time in history, the mighty council realized it had lost, not through destruction but through mercy. One delegate stood and said softly, "They did what we could not." "They fought with power and restraint." The speaker clenched his fists. This is humiliation." "Or," the delegate replied, "it's justice." Far from the council's world, Admiral Reyes watched the disabled weapon drift across the black. "Recover the survivors," he ordered. "Send them home." Commander Imani frowned. "Home, sir? After what they tried to do?" Reyes nodded. "Yes. Let them tell their leaders what mercy looks like." A quiet hum filled the bridge as human ships deployed drones to rescue alien survivors. No one spoke. Even in victory, there was no celebration. Humanity had not fought for revenge. They had fought for silence, for peace through fear. Elias Ward later stood before a screen addressing the galaxy. His face was calm, his voice clear. "We did not seek this war. We will not seek another. But if you raise your hand against Earth again, remember this day. Remember that we could have ended you and chose not to." The message spread across the stars, seen by billions. Some called it arrogance, others called it wisdom. But all agreed on one thing. Humanity had changed the balance of the galaxy forever. In the council hall, the speaker sat alone, his once proud banners torn and faded. Outside his window, the stars seemed colder now, he whispered. "They spared us." "They truly spared us," no one answered. The chamber that had once roared with laughter was silent. Across the galaxy, worlds began to withdraw from the council. choosing neutrality or alliance with Earth. Trade routes shifted. Power structures collapsed. The mighty were falling. As the Valkyrian glided past the dying light of a distant star, Admiral Reyes watched the silent cosmos. "Do you think they'll try again?" Commander Imani asked quietly. Reyes shook his head. "Not soon. The galaxy has finally learned to listen." He looked out into the endless dark. "But when they forget, when arrogance returns, we'll be ready." Behind him, the Earth fleet drifted like shadows in the void, guardians of a world that had fought, forgiven, and finally earned its place among the stars. And far away, in the once mighty council chamber, silence reigned at last. The council world hung in the stars like a wounded jewel. Once brilliant and proud, it now glimmered faintly beneath a haze of smoke and fear. Its orbital defenses, once thought impenetrable, had gone dark. The fleets that guarded it were gone, scattered, or surrendered. What remained was silence. Inside the grand hall, the council assembled in desperation. Delegates whispered among themselves, their voices heavy with dread. The seats that once overflowed with arrogance now seemed too large for their frightened shapes. The banners that symbolized unity were gone, replaced with the faint hum of damaged lights. For days, the council had been trying to contact the humans. No message was returned. No signal answered. Only the void replied. And in that silence, fear grew like a storm. Then, without warning, the air shifted. The lights dimmed and a holographic signal flickered to life in the center of the chamber. A blue-white image shimmered into existence. A human woman. Her expression was calm, her posture still. Her name appeared below her image. Ambassador Lee, United Earth Coalition. Members of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice steady and clear. For centuries you have spoken of peace while building your power on the suffering of others. You called yourselves protectors, but you ruled through fear. You mocked us, threatened us, and tried to erase us. You forgot that respect is not given, it's earned. A low murmur rippled through the chamber. Some delegates bowed their heads. Others clenched their claws or hands in shame. The high speaker stood abruptly, his voice shaking. "You dare speak this way before the council?" Lee's holographic gaze turned toward him. "There is no council anymore. There is only the memory of what it used to be." The speaker faltered. Around him, the other delegates said nothing. The silence was heavy, unbearable. Lee continued, her voice calm but filled with weight. "Humanity does not seek conquest. We do not wish to rule. We came to the stars to learn, to share, to grow. But you left us no choice. You sent fleets, weapons, and threats. You made us your enemy." She paused. The room was so silent that even the hum of the translation drones could be heard. "But now," she said softly, "we offer peace. True peace. Not one written in arrogance, but in understanding. We will not destroy you. We will not demand tribute. We ask only that you remember what we have done and why." The hologram shifted. Behind Ambassador Lee appeared a projection of the human fleet. Thousands of ships, black and silver, stretching across the stars. They did not point their weapons. They simply hovered, silent and still. Gasps filled the hall. Never had such a fleet been seen. It was vast, disciplined, alive. Lee's image looked upon them once more. "We have seen your arrogance. We have seen your cruelty. But we have also seen your fear. And we understand it. You feared what you could not control. Now you understand we are not to be controlled." The speaker took a trembling step forward. What do you want from us?" Lee's expression softened slightly. "We want nothing but respect. The same respect you demand from others. The same you denied us." The projection flickered again, showing images from across the galaxy. Council colonies freed from oppression. Alien species cheering in the streets. Ships bearing the human insignia delivering supplies instead of destruction. "You once believed power meant dominance," Lee said, "but power is restraint. Power is choice. Humanity fought not to conquer, but to remind the stars what peace could mean again." A small alien delegate with pale blue skin and trembling eyes raised her hand timidly. "And if we accept this peace?" Lee's voice was quiet. "Then Earth stands beside you, not above you." Her words hung in the air like music. For the first time in centuries, the council chamber felt human emotion, hope. Beyond the council world, the sky rippled with light. The human fleet entered orbit, casting shadows across the city's towers. But there were no attacks, no alarms, only silence and awe. From the ground, millions of alien citizens looked up at the sky, seeing the glimmer of human ships outlined against their sun. They had grown up believing Earth was small, weak, temporary. Now they watched the proof of their own blindness. Children pointed toward the sky and whispered a word that spread through the crowd like a prayer. Humans. Inside the council hall, the speaker finally lowered his head. "You have humbled us," he said. "We do not deserve mercy." Lee's gaze softened. "Perhaps not. But mercy is not about what one deserves, it's about who we choose to be." At her words, the council fell silent again. No one dared to speak. Then slowly the speaker removed his golden robe and placed it upon the floor, a gesture of surrender unseen in generations. "Then teach us," he said. "Show us how to begin again." Lee bowed her head slightly. "Then listen. That is how peace begins." Her hologram faded, leaving the council in darkness. For a long moment no one moved. Then for the first time in history, applause echoed in the chamber. Not forced, not political, but real. Hours later, Admiral Reyes stood aboard the Valkyrian, watching from orbit as the council world sent a new signal. It was not a demand, not a threat. It was an acknowledgement, an apology. Commander Imani joined him at the viewport. "So it's over?" she asked softly. Reyes smiled faintly. "No wars ever truly end, but maybe this one will change what comes next." He watched as the blue-green planet rotated below, its cities glittering like distant constellations. "We came to the stars as students," he murmured. "They tried to make us servants. Now they'll remember us as equals." Imani smiled. "Or as the species that made the galaxy listen." Reyes nodded. "That's enough." Far below, in the council's central square, the speaker addressed billions watching through holofeeds. "Today we accept a truth we once denied," he said. "Humanity has shown us what strength truly means, not in domination, but in mercy. We mocked them once, but now we thank them for reminding us who we were supposed to be." Across the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds, species listened in silence. The name Earth no longer carried mockery. It carried respect. And when the stars rose that night over the council world, a strange peace settled over the galaxy, a peace born from humility, not fear. For the first time in history, the council truly saw, and what they saw was humanity, not as monsters, not as rebels, but as the mirror the galaxy had long avoided. The galaxy breathed again. After months of war, the endless transmission of threats and counter-threats faded into stillness. The stars no longer carried signals of command or surrender, only quiet. The council world, once the shining center of galactic power, now orbited in humility. Above it, in the cold vacuum of space, the fleet of Earth floated like a constellation of judgment. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the Valkyrian, staring at the blue-white marble beneath him. His crew worked in silence. There was no cheering, no celebration. They all knew what victory felt like. It wasn't glory. It was exhaustion. "Status report," Reyes said softly. "Peace talks confirmed, Admiral," Commander Imani replied. "The Council has signed the accord. They've agreed to dissolve their war charter and open their archives to every species." Reyes nodded. "And the fleet?" "Standing by, awaiting orders to return home." For a long time, the Admiral said nothing. He simply gazed at the planet. "Tell them." "The war is over." Down on the Council's surface, the city was rebuilding. Towers once destroyed by panic had begun to glow again. In the central plaza, a monument was being raised, not of victory, but of remembrance. The figures carved in crystal were not alien leaders or heroes, but two hands, one human, one alien, reaching toward each other. Ambassador Lee stood before it, surrounded by representatives from dozens of worlds. Her uniform was plain, her voice quiet as she addressed the assembly. "History will remember this war," she said, "not because of who won, but because of who finally listened. We were mocked. We were underestimated, but we did not answer hatred with destruction. We answered it with restraint. That is what separates humanity from the monsters they once called us." The crowd listened in silence. Many of them had lost ships, cities, even worlds in the chaos, yet none could deny the truth. The humans had held back when no one else ever had. From the back of the hall, a small alien child raised her hand. "Ambassador," she asked softly, "why didn't you destroy us?" "You could have." Lee smiled faintly. "Because we remember what it's like to be small," she said. "And because mercy echoes longer than fear." The child's eyes widened and a wave of quiet nods passed through the crowd. Even the council guards lowered their weapons slightly, as though understanding for the first time what peace truly meant. Above, the human fleet prepared to leave orbit. One by one, the ships aligned toward the void beyond the system. Their engines glowed softly like candles in the darkness. Commander Imani stood beside Reyes at the viewport. "Feels strange, doesn't it? Leaving after all this?" Reyes nodded. "It does, but that's how it should be. We came to prove something. Now we've done enough." Imani looked at him curiously. "What will happen to the council?" "They'll rebuild," Reyes said. "They'll argue, they'll make mistakes, but they'll remember. Every empire that forgets respect meets the same silence." He turned to the communication console. "Transmit final message." Across the galaxy, screens flickered to life one last time. On every channel, every world, humanity's final broadcast appeared. Admiral Reyes stood alone, wearing no armor, no medals. His words were simple. "This is not the end of war, but it can be the beginning of peace. The galaxy does not belong to one species. It belongs to all who live in it. Remember this. Humanity does not kneel, but neither do we seek to rule. We will walk beside you, not above you. Let this silence be the sound of understanding." The transmission ended, replaced by a single image, a glowing symbol of Earth, orbiting a star, surrounded by a ring of light. Below it, a single word appeared: respect. On distant worlds, people watched and wept. On the mining colonies of Tau Vega, workers stopped to stare at their holoscreens. On the icy moons of Zathra, soldiers laid down their weapons. Even in the darkest reaches of space, pirates and wanderers paused to listen. For the first time in millennia, the stars shared a single moment of peace. Back on Earth, lights filled the sky. Cities across the planet held silent vigils, not for victory, but for remembrance. The people knew that the galaxy was watching, and that their name now carried weight far beyond their home. Children looked up at the constellations and whispered stories about the day Earth spoke and the galaxy fell, silent. In the ruins of the Council's old archive, the High Speaker sat alone. His robes were gone. His title meant nothing. He watched the human fleet fade into the distance, their ships disappearing one by one into the void. "They could have ended us," he whispered, "but they didn't." An aide beside him bowed his head. "Perhaps that is why they deserve to lead." The speaker shook his head. "No, they don't want to lead. They just wanted to be heard." He looked up at the stars where humanity's ships had vanished. And now, the whole galaxy listens. Weeks later, the galaxy began to change. Former council worlds formed new alliances, ones based on cooperation, not domination. Trade routes reopened. Human ships visited alien stations, not as soldiers, but as ambassadors and engineers. In orbit above Earth, a new station was built, a vast ring of light called the Terran Conquered, where every species could meet as equals. Ambassador Lee stood before the completed structure, her reflection visible in the glass. "It's strange," she murmured, "how peace can be louder than war." Admiral Reyes joined her, watching the sunrise curve over the planet below. "Peace was never quiet," he said. "It just needed someone brave enough to listen." They stood there in silence, two figures framed against the glowing dawn of Earth. The galaxy was vast, the stars infinite, but for the first time they felt close, connected by something deeper than treaties or fear. Humanity had not conquered the stars. They had taught them to listen, and so the legend spread from world to world, from one generation to the next. There came a day when Earth fought the galaxy, and won not by destroying it, but by teaching it silence. The Council's silence became history's echo. The stars no longer mocked humanity. They spoke their name with awe. And across the void, that silence, earned through pain, courage, and restraint, became humanity's loudest victory of all.